The old women say that evil never announces itself. It arrives wearing a smile, carrying a bowl of warm soup, speaking with a soft voice. It arrives the way Mama Adaize arrived in the village of Oguta, quietly, humbly, with 2 small children on her back and nothing but a wrapper tied around her waist. Nobody knew where she came from. She said she was from the east, that her husband had died, that the road had been long and cruel. The women of Oguta looked at her thin face and her tired eyes, and they felt sorry for her. They gave her a small mud house at the edge of the village, near the mango trees, where the evening breeze blew cool and the fireflies came out at night like small dancing stars. Poor woman, they said, God will reward us for helping her. They did not know then what that help would cost them. It started small, the way these things always do. Mama Adaize knocked on the door of Nenna, the palm oil seller, on a Tuesday morning. She was carrying her youngest child, a boy with big sad eyes, and she looked like she had not eaten in 2 days. "My sister," she said softly, "I am ashamed to ask, but I have nothing in my pot tonight. Can you lend me just a small cup of palm oil? I will return it before the week ends. God will bless you." Nenna was a generous woman. She had 7 children of her own, but her heart was wide. She gave Mama Adaize a full bottle of palm oil, not just a cup. She even added a piece of dried fish. "No need to return it," Nenna said. "We are neighbors. That is what neighbors do." Mama Adaize held Nenna's hands and cried. Real tears, the kind that fall heavy and fast. She called Nenna her mother, her angel, her God-sent. She left the compound smiling with the bottle under her arm. 3 weeks later, Nenna fell sick. It was a strange sickness. It started with a headache that sat behind her eyes like a hot stone. Then her legs became heavy. Then she stopped eating. The herbalist came, shook his head, and said he had never seen anything like it. The pastor came and prayed until his voice was hoarse. By the 4th week, Nenna was dead. The village mourned. They buried her under the old Iroko tree behind her compound. They cooked food and shared stories about her kindness. Then life moved on, the way life always does. Nobody connected her death to Mama Adaize. Not yet. By the end of that year, 3 more people had died. Emeka, the yam farmer, who had lent Mama Adaize a bag of yams and a cutlass he never got back. Old Mama Chidima, who had given her a piece of good cloth for the children. Young Obiora, who had lent her money for school fees, money his own mother had saved for 6 months selling firewood. Each one died the same way. Slow, strange, unexplained. The herbalist scratched his head. The pastor intensified his prayers. People began to whisper about a curse on the village, about angry ancestors, about something in the water. But Nkechi noticed. Nkechi was 17 years old, the daughter of Emeka, the yam farmer. She was not the prettiest girl in the village or the smartest in school, but she had something most people did not have. She paid attention. She watched people the way a hunter watches the bush, quietly, patiently, without blinking. After her father died, she sat in their compound for 3 days and thought about everything. She made a list in her head because she could not afford paper. She listed everyone who had died recently. She listed what each person had in common. And slowly, like morning pushing away night, one name kept rising to the surface. Mama Adaize. She told her uncle, a serious man named Ikena, who had worked in the city and read many books. "Be careful with what you are saying," Ikena told her. "Accusing a widow is a serious matter. People will call you wicked." I am not accusing, I am observing. Every person who died gave her something first, every single one. Ikenna was quiet for a long time. Then he said, watch her, but say nothing to anyone yet.
So Nkechi watched. She watched Mama Adaeze move through the village like water, always finding the next generous person, always with a new story of suffering. Her roof was leaking. Could someone help? Her child was sick. Could someone lend her money for medicine? She needed salt, pepper, a lantern, a bucket, a piece of rope. Always borrowing, never returning. And the people she borrowed from always seemed to grow tired afterward. Not immediately, not in a way you could point to and say, see, this is the problem. But slowly, gradually, like a candle burning down. They would get quieter, their eyes would lose their shine, and then, one morning, they would not wake up. Nkechi watched and noticed something else. After each person died, Mama Adaeze was always the first to arrive at the compound to mourn. She cried the loudest, she stayed the longest, she held the family members and whispered comfort into their ears. It made Nkechi's stomach turn cold. She went back to her uncle. She cries at every burial, she said, but I think she is not crying for the dead. I think she is celebrating. Ikenna decided it was time to visit the old diviner who lived in the forest outside the village. His name was Dike, and he was ancient, so old that children were afraid to look at his face. He did not come to the village anymore. The village went to him. Dike listened without speaking. He sat on a carved wooden stool and stared at the fire between them. When Nkechi finished talking, the old man was silent for a very long time. Then he said, the thing you are describing is old, older than this village. There are people who carry a spiritual debt, a hole inside them that can never be filled. They have made a covenant, sometimes knowingly, sometimes through inheritance, with a dark power. The covenant is simple. They borrow from the living, and in borrowing, they take something invisible. Energy, life force, the thing that keeps a person's blood warm. Each time they borrow and the person gives freely from their heart, that life force transfers. The borrower feeds on it, and the person who gave without knowing begins to die. Nkechi felt the hair on her arms rise. How do you stop it? Ikenna asked. Dike looked at him steadily. You catch her in the act of borrowing, and the person she borrows from must refuse, not rudely. The refuser must be clean and deliberate. And then you expose her before the whole village, while the borrowed item is still in her hand. The power breaks in the open, under witnesses. But, he paused, his old eyes heavy. The person who does this must be brave, because she will turn on them first. Nkechi did not sleep that night. The trap was set on a market day. Nkechi had told only 3 people, her uncle, her mother, and one trusted elder named Papa Kyuku, who was old enough to remember things the younger generation had forgotten. They chose Nkechi's mother, Ada, who was known as one of the kindest women in the village. It would make sense for Mama Adaeze to approach her. They did not have to wait long. That morning, Mama Adaeze appeared at Ada's door, her face painted with suffering. Her child was feverish, she said. She needed just a small amount of money for medicine, just enough. She would return it, she swore on her children's lives. Ada looked at her. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. I cannot give you anything, she said. Mama Adaeze blinked. This was not what she expected. My sister. I said no. I cannot give you anything, Mama Adaeze. Not today. Not ever again. Something shifted in Mama Adaeze's face. It was fast, just a flicker, like a mask slipping. Her eyes went flat and dark like a river that has no bottom. Then she smiled, a smile that did not reach those flat eyes, and turned to leave. That was when Papa Chuku stepped from behind the wall. That was when Ekene and 4 other men came from the left. That was when the neighbors who had been quietly told to gather began to step out of their compounds. Mama Adaize stopped. She looked around at the circle forming, and for the first time, something moved across her face that was not calculation or performance. It was fear. Papa Chuku spoke slowly in the old language first, then in plain words so everyone could understand. He spoke the names of the dead: Nnenna, Emeka, Mama Chidima, Obiora. 7 names in total. 7 people who had given to Mama Adaize and were now in the ground.
The village went very still. Mama Adaize began to shake. She opened her mouth to speak, to cry perhaps, to produce the tears that had always saved her. But something was different now. The circle was too tight. The witnesses were too many. The words Papa Chuku was speaking were too old and too accurate. She fell to the ground. Not gently. She dropped like a person whose strings had been suddenly cut, and she began to scream. Not a human scream, but something else. Something that made the children run, and the dogs bark, and the birds fly from the mango trees all at once. It lasted for a long time. When it stopped, Mama Adaize was lying on the ground, breathing hard, her eyes wide and empty. The darkness that had lived behind them was gone. She looked like a person who had been asleep for years and had just woken up to find themselves somewhere strange. The village spent 3 days deciding what to do. In the end, they did not kill her. The pastor said that was not the way. The elders said the power was broken and killing her now would only create another kind of problem. Her 2 children were innocent and needed a mother. They sent her away, far, to a village where nobody knew her name, with strict instructions never to return. Her children were given to a family in Oguta who had no children of their own and had prayed for years for exactly that gift. Some people said this was too soft. Some people said it was right. Nkechi did not say anything. She went home, cooked a pot of soup, and ate with her mother and her uncle. They did not talk about what had happened. They just ate together, slowly, tasting every spoonful. That was enough. The village of Oguta still tells this story at night, around fires, when the children are gathered and the old women are watching. They do not tell it to frighten. They tell it as a lesson dressed in a warning dressed in a story. Generosity is a beautiful thing, but wisdom must walk beside it. Not everything that comes to your door with tears is what it appears to be. And some deaths are not about money at all. The elders always end the story the same way, with the same words, spoken slowly so the children can carry them. Borrow can kill. Not because giving is wrong, but because some hands take more than what is placed in them. Then the fire is allowed to die, and everyone goes inside.